No.
But we're starting again.
Yeah,
Thought. But what you, Eric, how you could see it too is, here is Hannah. She has something on her heart, or she wants to be a church musician, or help the church musician. How can we help her? And how can we help her by putting her within the total context of a group, organized around certain patterns. And these are not the only patterns, but there seem to be good patterns that could work. And here's Elder Rorta has a heart for what is really the mission of the church, and what can the church, of which he is an elder, how can it be helped. And so we give him information and ask him questions so as to rhetorically move him from one portion of history or the sequence to another portion, so that at the end, as we practice on all these little movements, then we're able to speak at the very end about our particular heart in such a way that it's moved into the right thing, which we have actually discovered more about as we move along the path. And that's and how we kind of got started with being days is because of the concept that the church is actually the people, it's not the building. But the tabernacle of Moses was a building, and it was for the edification of the people. And God gave Moses the pattern, and then Dr. Jordan says that, wonderfully enough, there were 7 speeches to Moses from God about how to build the tabernacle that relate to the 7 days of creation, so that the Holy of Holies was made on similar to the first day, let's say. So that then as you then you get all the way back to the beginning of creation, and as we move through, we come clear to the end of the relating this churches in Revelation to the days, so that we will have a universal history. Trying to do it in 4 weeks. So then we have comprehensivity, and we also have particularity in that Tiffany is our Pentecost person, and she has she has a heart for something, which she hasn't determined yet. But it will be
it's beating.
It will be helped to be matured, so that she can incarnate in speech and create things by going through this process, very similarly to what's supposed to happen in worship. You're supposed to be changed by exposure to the Bible in some sense, and by the authorities that God has put over you according to the Bible.
Do you think we could begin the discussion?
Let's do it.
I think this is kind of like learning to play the Settlers of Catan, where you can explain it and explain it and explain it, and it doesn't make sense completely. And when you start playing, then you start saying, oh, that's what you know.
I think you're exactly right, yeah.
It was Eric that asked the question. That'll teach him.
He is a troublemaker. I should have warned you.
Well, I think what the situation is, Rosenthal Hussey says that there are 4 stages of history before Jesus. There's the tribes, empires, Israel, and the Greeks. And the Greeks are very comparing. And then Rosenthal Hussey says there are 4 institutions, 4 calendars actually, in Western civilization that correspond to these 4 institutions. The tribe is kind of a community thing. The empires is the work schedule. The ecclesiastical calendar is the Israel, and the academic is the Greek. And Eric is wonderfully academic. He's a teacher, so he is more interested in that type of activity. But I think Tiffany is right.
Okay, so what is our so now we're going to actually get into doing this one anothering our second session, and how do we begin?
Well, our second session is when we theoretically have been moved in a maturational way from being priests and oxes and being commanded into more of a subjective, lyrical, kingly lion state, such that now we remind each other of the lion state of things and move each other into the next phase of history, which is basically the prophets and the exile.
Okay, so we begin, so now we do our initiations?
Yeah, here's how we do it. We would have, sometimes what we've done is we've transferred the initiations in between times so we have time to think about it. But now, now what we have is, and if people aren't here we can substitute, we have, we would have received the initiations in the form of 415263789, and then we would cut and paste into that, and then we would reply in the form of 987531642, which is a kind of a retuning, which I have it right here, by the way. I have extras.
Very good.
I've already got one from last week.
Yes, you do.
Does that sequencing bear on the meaning?
Well, what it bears on is that there are different sequences of things in parts of the Bible, I'm claiming. Of course, you know what the interesting thing about this area is, it's like I'm daubing stuff on a piece of paper, and my mom thinks it's really good. She put it on the refrigerator. But later on, there'll be people who can actually draw, you know, and they will improve this so much that you got one over.
Yeah, this is, this, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so what? Let's just. Okay.
So do the initiations begin with you then?
You accept them and then you retune them.
Yeah, it would
Let's
start with you.
let's initiation to 4, it says here.
Oh, a note to anyone who is watching, we are down 2 people, right?
Well, we're really down 3 because we had Dora as a day.
Yeah, we're down 3 people,
We'll see.
but they'll get to participate.
What we really would need to do, what I forgot to do, is we forgot to ask Eric what his heart was, and then you would assign him a tone.
Right.
And I was thinking maybe his thesis would be good.
Do we want to do that now, or do we want to go ahead with the initiations?
Well, I'm thinking. Well, you can think about what you really. The most important thing you can do, which would be most difficult to replace, is sometimes your heart. You know, what you would be contributing to the building of the tabernacle, or what we could help you with.
Well, I had like a thing in how it relates to 3 other things.
Oh, good.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
So art as it relates to teaching, church, and culture.
Okay. And then Elder Rorta would.
That was teaching, comma,
Oh, you have it.
church, and culture. Okay.
And then Elder Rorta would, the idea is that the Jordan is the judicial boundary of Israel, and that being brought into the total community is crossing the Jordan in a way, or being baptized in the Jordan. And we're using, instead of sight words, we're using ear words, so we call that the Jordan tone. And for instance, you could say something like, I would just a suggestion temporarily, something like, who are those guys that built the tabernacle, Bezaleel and Aholiab? And there are other sponsors of the tabernacle. Hiram of Tyre built was a temple builder, wasn't he? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then didn't Cyrus contribute to the rebuilding? Then you can start talking about